G'day guys, Max here from Evidence-Based Football Manager. This is part 5 of my training analysis video series. From this part onwards, we're going to start looking at the different types of training sessions in Football Manager in order to find out exactly how they affect player growth in the game. Before we get into it guys, you may have noticed I have recently joined the FM Scout team as a guest content creator. I've started doing a separate video series on the FM Scout YouTube channel regarding tactical instructions in Football Manager. If you're into the tactical aspect of the game, then you will find those videos very useful in constructing a custom Football Manager tactic. I'll provide a link below to that video, so do check that one out. Okay, so let me show you how I set up the experiments for today's video. So I'm in charge of Leeds United, and I use the game editor to create 25 clone players with a CA rating of 100 and a PA rating of 200. These 25 players are subdivided into 5 different age groups, 15, 18, 21, and 24. And they all have 20 out of 20 values for professionalism, ambition, and determination. The reason I've set these values as 20 out of 20 is because these are the 3 attributes in Football Manager that can accelerate a player's growth. And I do want to accelerate the growth of these players as much as possible in the tests that I'm going to do today, because that will sort of make it easier for me to spot the differences between the different types of training schedules. I've set up a custom league where there are no matches played throughout an entire season. This is just to prevent the effects of match experience from influencing my test results. So whatever growth that we observe from these players during the season will be purely from training and not from any match experience. Now the first thing I want to do is to set up a control data. So if I go into the training page here, you can see I've made the training schedule completely empty, which means that the players will not be doing any training for an entire season. So what I do is I go on a holiday for an entire season, and when I come back from the holiday on the 30th of April the next year, I go into the squad page, and you can see that the CA ratings of these players have all grown by various amounts. Remember, these players didn't play any matches and they didn't do any training for a whole year, but purely due to their young age, they will still show a little bit of growth over a season. Now, in my previous videos, my focus was on the growth in CA points for these players. But in this video, for the purpose of assessing the effects of the various types of training sessions, I reckon it's more important to focus on the actual attributes and how they grow over a season. For example, for this player here, his CA points grew by 14 points during the season, but I'm more interested in knowing exactly which attributes grew and which ones didn't. Now, if I go into the player page, you can go to this progress part here, and here it shows you which attributes grew recently and which ones didn't. So what I had to do is to record the attributes of all these players at the start of the season and then at the end of the season. Let me quickly show you the Excel tables. So this table here shows you the attributes of the 25 clone players at the start of the season. And if I scroll down a bit, this table here shows you the attributes of the same players at the end of the season. Remember, this is when the players didn't do any training whatsoever throughout the season. And I did the exact same simulation 3 times. That's why I have 3 sets of tables here. So this is going to act as a sort of like a control data against which we can compare the effects that the various types of training sessions have on the growth of player attributes. So today I'm going to have a look at the 8 different types of general training. So they are overall, outfield, GK, attacking, possession, defending, tactical, and physical. So first what I do is I go into the training page and I set up a schedule that consists of 7 overall training sessions per week. It's 7 sessions per week because 7 is the maximum number of times that you can reuse the same training sessions in a single week. Anyway, I fill up the entire calendar with this schedule, as you can see here. So the players will only be doing overall training for a whole year. So I go on a holiday like this, and when I come back from the holiday at the end of the season, I go into the squad view and I export the player attributes into Excel, just like I did before when the players did no training. I repeat the same process 3 times again in order to gather a sample pool. Once I'm done collecting the data for the overall training session, I repeat the same process for the other types of general training as well. Okay, finally, I have all the raw data that I need. Obviously, this is a lot of information, so what I did was I created a separate set of tables here on the side, which sort of summarizes everything, and it allows you to compare the different types of training schedules at a glance. So I have 8 types of training sessions here, and the horizontal row is the list of all the player attributes, physical, mental, and technical. The cells highlighted in blue are the attributes that each training session is supposed to boost. So you know in the game, when you look at the description for the different training sessions, they tell you which attributes they're supposed to have an impact on. So these blue cells are those attributes. And these numbers tell you how much the attributes grew in the entire squad per season in relation to the control value, which is when the players didn't do any training. For example, with acceleration, it says a negative 1.3 here, but that doesn't mean that there's been a decline in player attributes. Why would these players lose attributes? You know, they're all between 15 to 24 years of age, so there's no reason for them to lose any of these attributes. A negative value in these cells, they just mean that the amount of attribute growth throughout the squad was less than when the players didn't do any training, which basically means that the training schedule did not have any effect on boosting attribute growth. So you can see with the overall training session, it claims to have an impact on all these physical attributes of the players, but the growth in these attributes compared to the control value is negligible. For example, let's have a look at the strength attribute, right? So using the overall training, the strength attribute of the squad grew by just 3 more than the control value, which I reckon is a negligible amount. Like the difference of 3 could just be due to a random chance. So I think anything above 10, I reckon is it can be considered a significant amount. So what I did was I highlighted the cells here in green if the value is 10 or above. So guys, straight away we have an important discovery regarding the overall training session. It claims to have a boosting effect on the physical attributes of the players, but the game is lying to you. The overall training session has no effect on the physical attributes. In fact, out of all the types of training that we have here today, there's only one type that actively promotes the growth of the physical attributes to a notable degree, and that is the physical session. Surprise, surprise. So as you can see here, when the players were using the physical training schedule, the growth in the physical attributes outperformed the control values by significant amounts. Physical training also happens to be the only type of training that has an impact on the work rate attribute. So guys, write this down. This is the first take-home message of the day. Out of the 8 general training sessions in Football Manager, physical is the only type of training that boosts the growth of the physical attributes and the work rate attribute. Guys, in the game, when you look at the different types of training, it tells you which attributes are impacted by that training session, but according to my experiment, those descriptions are very unreliable. I already showed you how with the overall training session, you know, it claims to have an impact on the physical attributes, but it doesn't. So another example is the aggression attribute. Some of these training sessions claim to have an impact on the aggression attribute, but they don't. Aggression is an attribute in Football Manager that doesn't change throughout a player's career. The value is fixed when a new gen is first created, and that's it. Like it doesn't change. But all these training sessions, like overall and defending, they tell you that they'll have an impact on the aggression attribute. Again, the game is lying. That's Football Manager for you guys. It will tell you that something is working, but it really doesn't. You know, it happens all the time. And another example is the goalkeeping training session. If you have a look at the list of attributes that are affected by the goalkeeping training session, it doesn't mention any of the technical attributes. But according to my test, it does boost the growth of the technical attributes. I'm not complaining. It's this training session is delivering more than what it's promising. Have a look. The GK training session actively boosts all these technical attributes. There you go, guys. GK training session is underrated. I don't know why, but it just is, according to the results that I have today. So, guys, don't trust the in-game description for the training sessions. They are completely unreliable. Instead, go with this table that I have for you here. This is the actual list of attributes that are impacted by the various training sessions. I'll leave this up on the screen for a while for you guys to have a look. Just a few caveats here. The goalkeeping attributes are not included in the list. Goalkeepers have a slightly different pattern of growth in Football Manager, so I will need to conduct separate tests just for goalkeepers. Also, this list doesn't say anything about the determination attribute because in these tests that I did today, I set determination as 20 out of 20 for all the players. So if you have a look at these tables carefully, you will be able to tell 5 of these training sessions are completely identical in terms of the list of attributes that they boost, or attribute coverage if you like. So those 5 types are overall, outfield, GK, attacking, and defending. The other 2 sessions, possession and tactical, they fall behind the other sessions in terms of their attribute coverage. For example, possession training doesn't have any impact on crossing, finishing, and long shots. And tactical training only has an impact on the mental attributes of the players and not physical or technical attributes. And it's not like the boosting effect is greater for a less number of attributes. So if you compare the tactical training session with the defending session, the tactical session affects less number of attributes, but it's not like the amount of boost is greater for those smaller number of attributes. So at this point, I don't really see the point in using possession or tactical training because their effect on player growth is simply not as good as the other types of training, which is overall, outfield, GK, attacking, and defending. So if you discount possession and tactical training, it leaves us with 5 types of training: overall, outfield, GK, attacking, and defending. Since the attribute coverage of these 5 sessions is identical, let's try adding up the amount of boost that is generated by these training sessions in order to find out, which training session is the best out of the 5. So I have a separate column here that adds up all the cells highlighted in green for each of these training sessions. And you can see that out of these 5 different types of sessions, either GK, attacking, or defending generated the greatest amount of attribute growth. The overall and outfield sessions do fall behind in terms of the amount of attributes that they boost. Of course, training is not just about boosting player growth. It also has an impact on tactical familiarity, happiness, team cohesion, that kind of stuff. But let's face it, the most important aspect of training that we're looking for as managers is player growth. So given the evidence that I have here for you today, I reckon out of the 8 general training sessions, GK, attacking, and defending seem to offer the most benefit in terms of boosting player growth. Guys, these tests were conducted under strictly controlled environments. So what I want to do next is to try replicating these test results in an actual in-game situation. So what I did was I started a new save using Manchester United in FM22. And so let's have a look at the Manchester United squad here. And for these tests, I need some young players to observe their growth. So what I do is I go into the U23 squad and I moved these following 7 players to the senior team. So they are Amad Diallo, Ethan Ennis, Hanson Aaron, Kobe Mainu, Charlie McNeil, Alvaro Fernandez, and Anthony Elanga. These guys together with 2 other players from the senior team, Mason Greenwood and Jadon Sancho, they will become the subject of my experiment. The experiment process is the same as before. So first I did 1 simulation for an entire season when the players were doing 0 training. This is to establish the control data. After that, I set up 8 different training schedules made up of the 8 different types of general training. I fill up the entire calendar of Manchester United with a single type of training schedule, and I ran the simulation for an entire season. Since there are 8 different types of training, I had to run the same simulation 8 times, each with different types of training applied to the Manchester United training calendar. At the end of each simulation, I exported the player growth into an Excel table so that I could compare the growth of the players in relation to the control data. So here are the results for the Manchester United simulations. Again, I turned the results into a set of tables, and these numbers show you the amount of attribute growth for the 9 players that I observed in relation to the control data when these players didn't do any training. So these results do confirm the findings that I talked about previously. For example, the only type of training that boosts the physical attributes of the players is the physical training session, as you can see here. The possession and tactical training sessions do fall behind in terms of their attribute coverage. There are 5 training sessions that have exactly the same attribute coverage. They are overall, outfield, GK, attacking, and defending. And out of these 5 types of training, attacking and defending seem to generate the most amount of attribute boost. So yeah, the results that I have here for Manchester United do replicate the findings that I have from the previous test. So guys, let me briefly sum up the take-home messages for today's video. 3 big ones, guys. 1, do not trust the in-game description for the training sessions in Football Manager. They'll tell you a list of attributes that the training session will have an impact on, but they are completely unreliable. 2, out of the 8 different types of general training, GK, attacking, and defending seem to offer the most benefit in terms of player growth. 3, out of the 8 types of general training, physical is the only one that boosts the physical attributes and the work rate of the players. So it could be worth mixing in physical training sessions here and there in the training calendar for your team. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. Do you agree with what I talked about today? What do you think about training in Football Manager? Comment below to let me know. In my next video, I'll be talking about the next group of training sessions in Football Manager, which is match preparation. Guys, recently I've been receiving heaps of supportive comments on YouTube. You guys are awesome. Those messages really motivate me and they keep me going to keep doing these Football Manager related videos. So do keep them coming. Okay guys, see you next time.